one of us wants to get divorced. And secondly, I know you're the big marriage expert. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot. Your wife is dead.
Arrested Development, a show so brilliantly written, so endlessly funny, and so packed with hidden jokes that it's impossible to copy? That's right, Arrested Development isn't just a sitcom. It's a masterpiece. And today, we're breaking down why there will never be another show like it. Trust me, by the end of this video, you'll want to binge it all over again. Arrested Development revolutionized the sitcom format. It wasn't just a collection of gags and one-liners. It was a sprawling, interconnected tapestry of jokes that paid off episodes, sometimes even seasons later. Remember that there's always money in the banana stand bit.
Always money in a banana stand.
It was funny when you heard it, but the payoff made it legendary.
Burned it right down to the ground.
Are you crazy? There was money in that banana stand. There was $250,000 lining the walls of the banana stand. There's always money in the banana stand! No touching! No touching!
Arrested Development ended only after 3 seasons, which was way too soon for such a great show. Netflix renewed it 8 AORs after it went off the air. Season 3 was in 2005, and it wasn't until 2013 until Season 4 finally made its debut. Seasons 4 and 5 aren't quite as good as the first 3 seasons, but they're still better than most comedies out there. The good comedy and the chemistry of the actors are still there, but the storyline is not as strong as the first 3 seasons and is not as absurd. The storyline of the first season, for example, the time George Sr. was in jail, provided top-tier comedic moments.
There's always money in the banana stand! No touching! No touching!
Or the whole relation of George Michael and Anne, or the maybe storyline pretending to be a movie executive despite being a child, or Tobias joining the Blue Men Group. It's these absurd stories that we don't find anywhere else. In the first 3 seasons, every joke was like a Russian nesting doll. You'd laugh at the surface, and then you'd catch something new on your third rewatch. Shows today rarely take that kind of risk. Like my favorite joke likely for the whole show.
Joe charged at Michael with the scissors, but Michael, as he always did, picked rock.
You wanted to make me look foolish.
Put him down.
Foolish with scissors.
Which beat scissors. Unfortunately, the whole incident was covered by the paper.
The brilliance of Arrested Development lies in its characters, who are all hilariously flawed in their own unique ways, and how Michael, the so-called normal one, stands apart while still being a true Bluth at heart, and sometimes can be as bad as any of them, or even worse. Buster is completely dependent on his mother for everything and can't go outside by himself, and the time he goes to the outside world, his hand gets eaten. Then there's Gob. He distrusts everyone and craves authority, even though he has no idea how to use it. The daughter, Lindsay, she doesn't stand for anything. Tobias, who gave us legendary phrases like never nude.
I am completely undressed.
I thought he just saw cutoffs.
Me too.
And of course, Lucille, queen of insults and always high.
Fortunately, she had the good sense not to drive herself to the meeting.
No, I'll call for a car.
Unfortunately, this was after a failed attempt to do so.
Plus George Sr., who is amazing, plus George Michael and Maybe, which stand out on their own. The cast was pitch perfect, and the writing made sure every character had their moment to shine. Arrested Development didn't just tell jokes, it deconstructed comedy itself. The narration wasn't just there for exposition. It was a character calling out the absurdity of the plot. Like when Ron Howard says, "he didn't," or when they poked fun at network executives and their own cancellation. It was meta before being meta was cool. The show was fearless. It tackled family dynamics, privilege, and even politics. The Bluths were a scathing satire of the rich and clueless, and yet you couldn't help but root for them. Who else could make a failing housing development a central plot line and have it be hilarious? It was a comedy with a brain and a beating heart. However, Arrested Development was too smart for its own good. It debuted in 2003, long before streaming platforms became a thing. It wasn't built for casual viewing or sporadic reruns. It thrived on continuity and demanded attention, something the traditional TV model couldn't handle. But once it hit streaming, it found a cult following that understood its brilliance. If it had launched today, it'd dominate the cultural conversation. Could anyone recreate Arrested Development now? Not a chance. Shows today are either too broad to appeal to everyone or too niche to gain traction. Plus, the casting and fearless writing, it's hard to find that combo again. Arrested Development was weird, smart, and unapologetically itself. It didn't care if you didn't get the joke because it trusted you would eventually. The once-in-a-lifetime masterpiece. If you haven't watched it, go now. If you have, rewatch it. You'll catch something new every time. If you get here, thank you for watching, and please consider subscribing and sharing.